Why, it's a girl. She's mighty pretty. She's beautiful.
After months of controversies, it looks like the crown has slipped. And now, our once sparkling starlet, Rachel Zegler, is seeing red. The live-action Snow White remake, which was supposed to be Disney's next big cash cow, is turning into a full-blown box office tragedy. Directed by Marc Webb and featuring none other than Gal Gadot as the evil queen, this fairy tale flick was stacked with star power. But instead of magic mirrors and happily ever afters, Disney is now dealing with a financial horror show. Let's break it down. Opening weekend was shocking. For a movie that had a budget of $250 million, the fact that it was only able to raise $43 million is insane. That's not a box office hit. That's a public roasting. And people online are not holding back.
And everything I do, people will wait in line to see.
No, he's gonna turn around. You know it, I know it, everybody knows it. Wow.
Memes, rants, TikToks, you name it, they're coming for Rachel with torches and hashtags. But here's where things get really spicy. Whispers are flying that the film is quietly being pulled from select international theaters due to its floundering performance. And hey, why shouldn't it? It's not like people were even coming to watch the film in the first place. Comedian Chrissy Mayer lit the match on March 18th with a post that straight up annihilated the movie. Not good. Saturday night, 7:30 p.m., 0 tickets sold. The attached screenshot was a near empty seating chart at one of the biggest IMAX screens in the entire DC area, AMC Tyson's Corner 16 to be exact. Another post showed a sad little IMAX screening on a Saturday night, prime family movie hour. And guess what? Only 5 seats were taken. In a theater known for selling out blockbusters, that's not a red flag, it's a 5-alarm fire. But perhaps the worst thing of all is that Rachel Zegler, the face of this so-called magical reboot, reportedly had to watch her own film with just a few friends in an empty theater. No fans, no cheers, just the haunting silence of a box office bomb. The 23-year-old Snow White star is finding out the hard way that not every fairy tale gets a happy ending. Turns out it was actually Discount Tuesday when Rachel went to watch her own film, but even slashed prices couldn't draw in the crowds for Snow White. As the movie began, Ilda screamed Zegler's name with full fanfare, panning the camera to the screen and then to the star herself. Rachel gave a shy laugh and clapped for herself, clearly trying to stay upbeat. But the surrounding sea of empty seats, they were hard to miss. Screenshots of sparsely populated seating charts from across the country began circulating like wildfire, and the commentary has been savage. One user joked that at this point, someone better start a GoFundMe for Disney so that they can cut their losses. To make matters worse, critics are now mocking Zegler directly, accusing the award-winning actress of failing to connect with fans, or worse, driving them away. Even Joe Rogan entered the chat, and he did not hold back. On a recent episode of The Joe Rogan Experience, the podcast king sat down with comedian Kurt Metzger and absolutely roasted Disney's Snow White remake. From the eye-watering budget to Ziegler's now infamous public image, Rogan went in hard. And yes, he said exactly what everyone's been whispering under their breath for months. Rogan could barely hide his disbelief when he learned the price tag. He joked that they should have brought in Doge to look at the movie. That's how ridiculous the spending was?
They should get Doge to look at this movie. They spent $250 million making that movie.
But the real sting came when Rogan zeroed in on Rachel Zegler herself. He didn't name names, but the message was loud and clear. He called out the decision to hand such a massive project to a young actress without giving her even a little guidance on how to navigate the spotlight.
But imagine you spend $250 million and you get some young girl and you don't kind of talk to her about like, hey, don't get political. You're young. And I know you have opinions about things, but should be just about the movie.
In his view, Disney made a $250 million bet without doing the basic PR prep, and it backfired spectacularly. Of course, this box office disaster has been coming for a long time. It all started when Disney dared to cast 23-year-old Zegler as their new Snow White. The internet didn't just raise an eyebrow, it detonated. Overnight, Zegler went from a rising star to an online punching bag. critics slammed the casting choice, saying the Latina actress didn't fit the traditional image of the pale-skinned princess. It was déjà vu all over again, echoing the frenzy Halle Bailey faced when she was cast as Ariel in The Little Mermaid. But unlike some stars who try to kill the drama with kindness, Zegler poured gasoline on it and lit the match herself. In a now infamous and deleted post, Zegler hit back at the outrage with biting sarcasm. Yes, I am Snow White. No, I am not bleaching my skin for the role. She didn't stop there, calling her critics losers obsessed with maintaining the bloodline purity of a cartoon princess. Rather than smoothing things over, though, Zegler's bold words turned a heated debate into a social media inferno. Even in a 2022 Variety interview with Andrew Garfield, Zegler casually acknowledged she was trending. Not for the film, not for her talent, but because people were angry, and that anger never cooled. Why? Well, because at a certain point, it wasn't even just the internet trolls that were coming for her, it was die-hard Disney loyalists too. In a 2022 interview with Extra, Zegler casually tossed shade at the original 1937 Snow White, calling the whole storyline, you guessed it, weird.
I mean, the original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Yeah. Weird. So we didn't do that this time.
Yep, she took a swing at the beloved tale that launched Disney animation into legend. Now sure, Disney had already hinted that this remake was going to be more modern, but Zegler, she made it sound like the OG fairy tale was one big creepy red flag. When she announced they were taking a different approach with the film, fans didn't hear a refreshing update. They heard total rewrite of a classic.
She's not going to be safe with the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be, and the leader that her late father told her that she could be if she was fearless, fair, brave, and true.
And they were not having it. The backlash was swift, loud, and brutal. Critics accused her of dragging the very film she was supposed to celebrate, not rewrite it like a sassy Tumblr post. And the internet did what it does best, clap back. One fan on X summed up the vibe perfectly. If you hate the story so much, why take the role? And here's where it gets really spicy. Instead of walking it back, Zegler doubled down. In a Vanity Fair interview just 1 month later, she acknowledged the whispers about her version being PC Snow White and agreed, yeah, it is, because it needed that. Then she dropped this mic. It's an 85-year-old cartoon, and our version is a refreshing story about a young woman who has a function beyond, someday my prince will come. But whether you think she's a fearless feminist icon or just a Disney disaster, one thing was clear by this point. This princess was not winning over the kingdom. 2 years after setting the internet on fire with her eyebrow-raising comments about the OG fairy tale, Zegler finally tried to clean up the ashes. In an October profile with Variety, the 23-year-old star opened up about the toll the backlash had taken on her. And get this, she wasn't the unbothered Disney princess people assumed. Nope, she was hurting. It made me sad, Zegler admitted, her words almost dripping with regret. According to her, she never meant to bash romance, Prince Charming, or anyone's fairy tale dreams. She insisted her comments had been misunderstood. It wasn't about erasing the love story. It was just about shining a light on a princess who wants more. But by then, the damage had already been done. Now, it wasn't just the fairy tale purists that were upset. Disney, yes, Disney, was reportedly getting uncomfortable too. The real mess began brewing when Zegler used her platform to speak on something far more serious than a poisoned apple. After the first trailer for Snow White dropped, Zegler tweeted a thank you to fans. Innocent, right? Well, not exactly. Just moments later, she added a bold and politically charged statement. That's when everything stopped feeling like a family-friendly fumble and turned into a full-on studio crisis.
Behind the scenes, you guys know as well as I do that those executives like Spielberg are looking at that saying, Rachel Zegler can F right off.
According to Variety's executive editor Tatiana Siegel, producer Mark Platt personally flew to New York to have a one-on-one sit-down with Zegler. Disney, already dealing with shaky box office projections and lukewarm fan reception, now had to navigate the murky waters of international politics. Insiders say Disney execs told Zegler to take down the political statements since it was bound to make people furious. Not to mention Disney's PR so close to the release of the Snow White film. Now, unlike many celebs who backtrack when the heat rises, Zegler stood her ground. She didn't delete it, and she didn't apologize. That post stayed right where she left it. And Disney? Well, let's just say they weren't feeling so magical. According to Siegel, the studio was forced to take drastic action. As it turned out, Gal Gadot was on the opposite side of Zegler's politics. And when Zegler made her social media post, Gadot automatically came under a lot of pressure from people who did not support her.
Zegler also faced blowback after posting Free Palestine, Gadot is from Israel and served in the Israeli army.
This problem had become so dire that Disney had to hire extra security for Gadot. But the mess didn't stop at security bills. Disney allegedly hired a full-time social media guru just to vet Zegler's posts. But that wasn't all. If you were picturing a dazzling red carpet extravaganza for Snow White's premiere, well, you'd be disappointed, you see. Disney ditched the traditional Hollywood hoopla. No glittering gala, no joint interviews, no classic step and repeat. Instead, they opted for what they're calling a more celebratory vibe, which of course basically meant a tightly controlled PR affair with zero room for uncomfortable questions. And if you're wondering just how frosty things might be behind the scenes, take a look at the press tour. Zegler and Gadot weren't promoting the film hand in hand like your usual Disney duo. Nope, Zegler was off in Spain, crooning a new song titled Waiting on a Wish from a Storybook Castle, while Gadot is nowhere in sight.
Waiting on a wish.
Ultimately, given that Zegler had practically made life extremely difficult for Disney and even her co-stars, many people began blaming her for the box office failure. But you know what? Not everybody agrees she should be solely blamed. Comedian Kurt Metzger made a sharp point during a recent podcast, revealing that Zegler might be getting way more heat than she deserves. Sure, he admits she might not have been the perfect pick for the role, but according to him, the blame game is being totally misdirected. I mean, I'm sure she sucks, but she is very young. She didn't write that script though, right? He said, and let's be honest, he's got a point. Sure, Zegler's comments may have stirred the pot, but she's not the one who greenlit that script. Most importantly, she's not the one who completely changed what the dwarfs would look like, which ultimately became one of the most controversial choices in the film. You see, instead of casting actors with dwarfism for the iconic 7 dwarfs, Disney opted to cast Martin Kleba to play all 7 roles with CGI enhancements. Naturally, the decision didn't sit well with many, including actor Peter Dinklage, who publicly slammed the move, calling it backwards.
You're progressive in one way, but you're still making that f***ing backward story of 7 dwarves living in a cave. What the f***?
And he wasn't alone in his criticism. Even after Disney insisted that they had been consulting with members of the dwarfism community, the backlash didn't stop. People were outraged, arguing that the film missed a huge opportunity to properly represent the community by casting actors who actually live with dwarfism. Naturally, the outcry over Snow White put a spotlight on Disney's upcoming projects, and the studio quickly found itself in damage control mode. As critics and audiences continued to debate the company's casting choices and lack of genuine representation, Disney had to reconsider its next big move. And that brings us to Tangled. Now, in a shocking twist, Disney is slamming the brakes on its much-anticipated live-action remake of Tangled. This move comes hot on the heels of the disastrous box office performance of Snow White, with reports flooding in, breaking the news that Disney was halting production. This live-action reimagining of the beloved 2010 animated hit Tangled, based on the iconic Brothers Grimm fairy tale Rapunzel, was expected to be the next major hit, with The Greatest Showman director Michael Gracie on board and a script penned by Jennifer Caton Robinson. Expectations were high, but it seems like the studio has decided to pause and rethink everything. So, what happens now? Will Disney take this time to course correct and deliver something that truly resonates with its audience, or is this the beginning of the end for their live-action remakes? With so much riding on their next move, it's clear that the pressure has never been higher.